I want to say to you, my man, as your reverend, I want you to keep on keeping on. Victory is in sight. It may be so high you can't get over it. It's so wide you can't go around it. It's so deep you can't go under it. You got to go in the gate. I'm gonna tell you, in conclusion, he who sits on the red hot stove shall surely rise.
Thank you for taking the time to subscribe, to listen, to just be a part of this journey with this podcast. I appreciate the love, the encouragement, and everything else from many, many different people. Basically, we're just going to start like we always do with our poems of struggle. This poem comes from Marilyn Nelson. This poem is dedicated to Emmett Till. It is called A Wreath for Emmett Till. Emmett Till's name still catches in my throat, like syllables waylaid in a stutterer's mouth, a 14-year-old stutterer in the South, to visit relatives and to be taught the family ways. His mother had finally brought that White Sox cap she made him wear an oath to be careful around white folks. She told him the truth of many Mississippi anecdotes. Some white folks have blind souls. In his suitcase she packed dungarees, t-shirts, underwear, and comic books. She given him a note for the conductor, waved to his chubby face, wondered if he'd remember to brush his hair. Her only child, a body left to bloat. This is the anniversary of this young brother's murder and torture at the hands of these right racist pieces of shit out there in Mississippi. I don't want to go that hard, and I know it's younger groups listening, but you got to understand this was a baby that was murdered. This was a young man that was murdered. So you understand my sensitivity, and I apologize for that. But you have to understand how I feel as a black man to know that this young man was tortured and murdered at such a young age, no matter the time period. We're going to move on to the next step is support these particular brands. 8 and 9 clothing. These brothers are out of Miami, Florida. Please support them. Many t-shirts and hats and things of that nature. Very good quality. Give them a chance. 8and9clothing.com. The films that we are needing to support right now is Joy Road, directed by Harry A. Davis. Unbelievable film. The brother Wood Harris plays an awesome role inside of it. Give it a shot. It is on Netflix and I believe other streaming sites. Books for us to now support as well is My Soul to Take by the sister T. Do. Please take a read to this. This is an unbelievable novel, something that can be beneficial for the family, for just reading in general. We have to continue to read with the family. Put these devices away, put these phones away and everything else, and just continue to get the knowledge we need. Without anything less, I would love to introduce my guest. This brother is something I looked over many of his videos on Facebook and things like that, and just being able to build with this brother is an unbelievable thing. Professor Carl Tone Jones, please, brother, thank you for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me, beloved. Very powerful opening to your show. Very much appreciative to be a part of it.
No problem, Carl. I appreciate you, brother, just getting able to have you on here. I was actually going in another direction because I couldn't get you in time, but I appreciate that God's had us link up at a reasonable time period to get this going, brother.
No doubt, brother. Always works out in the end.
Not a problem. So please, Carl, can you give my audience just a quick history of your background and things of that nature for those that don't know, brother?
Okay. Well, I'm a college professor here in Philadelphia. I teach at a small junior college. And basically, the majority of my work is about building and empowering and uplifting our community through different venues or different engines. I have a website. The website is called What About Us, and basically I designed that website to be a hub of information, but also a place where we can sort of build on a message. The message is clear: Black empowerment. I work with children throughout the community. We actually employ a small group of children, and we work on different things to build and uplift. They have their own business called Community Cleanup Squad, where they receive small stipend and they come out weekly to, literally clean up the community. They pick up trash off the ground and so forth. Last summer, we had a book reading initiative where we paid children to read books, and if they read a book by an African or about an African author or whomever, they received more money. And the purpose behind that is, one, to get our children off of social media so much and off of these devices, as you said earlier, to get them into the books, and to also let them know that learning about us is more important than them learning about our enemies or our oppressors.
Absolutely.
So, to instill that, to plant that seed in the young brothers and sisters, I thought it was very important. Right now, I'm currently working on a movie project titled The Independence Day Project. And the Independence Day Project is basically the first of its kind. This will be the first movie to actually show what it looks like to live in a system free of white supremacy.
Wow.
And, we're going to give, it's a documentary style format, but we're going to give vivid, descriptions of what it looks like. And then we're going to build upon Dr. Neely Fuller's 9 areas of human activity where, white supremacy thrives. And we're going to show you through each of those areas what we need to do to get to the point of black independence. Now, when I say black independence, I mean an independently functioning black community that's self-sustained, self-protected, and self-governed. So I'm not sure what it would look like in somebody else's mind, but in my mind, it looks like a community that can produce its own food, a community that can produce its own protections, a community that can govern its own policies, a community that's unlike the community that we deal with right now that's based on materialism. Well, this one will be based on more of a cooperative and understanding of our ancient cultures to bring those values into the forefront. So we're going to have a lot of people on this project, and they're going to give their diverse views of what it looks like. And basically what we want to do is change the conversation, because just like you have the programs where they're talking about we're going to have a man on Mars, a man mission to Mars, and now you're seeing movies about man or people actually living on Mars and so forth. They're building toward a vision. Well, the reason why I think we struggle so much with black empowerment is because we consistently talk about the struggle, but we're not building towards the vision of an independent black community.
Absolutely. And you're so right, Carl. I appreciate that, brother, and absolutely everything that you're doing currently, I applaud you. And I know most of the brothers, and when we look at it, we aren't receiving that praise, and we're not really getting those kudos as much as you were if you was doing some kind of niggerish, ignorant behavior. I want to truly applaud you for the work that you do every single day, you and the other brothers and sisters, whoever is doing those kind of things, because it's very beneficial for our little brothers and sisters, because they are the future. These are the ones that are going to gravitate this either the nonsense or the positivity, and what you guys are putting in, I appreciate that so much.
Oh, thank you, brother. One of the things we like to focus on is the youth, to plant these seeds. So up until recently, I have been going to high schools in the area, and there have been some teachers who have not been afraid to allow me into their classroom to speak unapologetically, one, about being of African,
Absolutely.
and two, speaking truth to power unapologetically. So we need to start planting these seeds within our children, because we're dealing with a situation right now that society is promoting terror in terms of how, it's responding to us, how it's responding to our children, how it's responding to our women. There are terroristic tactics that are taking place with these race soldiers who are hiding behind the shield, and they've been unleashed onto our community. They're using negative propaganda through their forms of media to perpetuate us as being violent. You have a current presidential candidate right now that's receiving a ton of support from black people, yet and still 20 years ago, this same person was saying that black people, our children, were super predators and that they need to be brought to heel. So, the spin doctors are working in the media, so it's our job to take the forms of media and the platforms that we have to sort of chop at those particular ideologies that are destructive to our communities.
You're right. Because basically, like you said, what Hillary Clinton stated about black youth and just minorities in general, just trying to put that framework on them as they're being predators and things like that. That's the difficulty that most of the kids live with, but they accept it as in being their norm because of what they're seeing. They're telling on the television and they see an image of the Housewives, or they see an image of Love and Hip Hop, or they see an image of this particular rapper or this particular person, and they're just giving you that aspect of them being in a negative kind of connotation, so the kids accept that. And that's what the difficulty is that we as a people, we just never understood. Now we did then. I can't say we didn't back then, because back then you can know that we know how powerful images actually are. When we had the images of Malcolm and the images of Huey and all these other men, you had to be able to destroy that. So you had the Superflies and you had the this and the that to deteriorate those kind of powerful images to make you guys seem like, okay, no, I'm going to go on this side. So I'm not going to be with the brothers. I'm not going to try to uplift my people because I'm just going to look out for self. And that's what we're having right now, brother. It seems like the superfly blaxploitation has worked. What do you think, Carl?
Oh, no, it's worked, and it's got to a point where, they no longer have to produce it. It's being reproduced in our own communities, and we're pretty much mimicking the behaviors of these social engineers, these oppressive types that have decided that our community is filled with villains, is filled with criminals, is filled with crooks, and therefore we're pretty much dealing with a self-fulfilling prophecy now, where we are accepting their ideologies or their beliefs or their versions of who we are.
Absolutely.
And this is the purpose for the movie, is because when we look at the media is such a strong influence over how we do, how we deal, and how we feel about one another. And when you consistently see these negative images of ourselves, of us killing each other, of us glorifying death, of us, sexualizing our women, and you see it on a music video, and I'm not even going to talk about the psychology that happens when you place it through a rhythm and a beat. You sort of drum it into somebody's head. But you see this over and over again, and eventually it becomes, embedded into our subconscious. And so we need to present the visual of a powerful image. We need to do it in a way where we are countering their particular, their predictive programming onto us. We're countering that with our form and our truth. And we have to have our truth organized, because as an elder once told me, an unorganized truth an organized lie is more powerful than an unorganized truth.
Wow.
So we have to be more organized about our truth and putting our message out there, because they have perfected the art of lying. And not just lying to us, they lie to themselves, and then they believe in the lies to the point where it empowers them and devalues us. Absolutely. So we have to get past that point of allowing for their lies to inflict so much damage and harm onto our community. We have to get better at that.
You're right. But the thing is, with the whole breakdown, I believe it is really, Carl, is just the basic Stockholm syndrome, where you just start loving the oppressor. It's like you're being beaten, but you're just loving the aspects of what they believe is beneficial. Like you're fighting what they believe success is, or you're fighting what this culture believes success is, or that culture, rather than just you building with what you need with your people. And I see that really not resonating with us. It is coming slowly but surely, but I think it's coming more on the level of fear. Those other black men are now afraid. They were comfortable before bringing around white people, Asian people, different cultures and things of that nature because they were able to then hide. But now that you're being murdered at such a high rate and on film, before it was a high rate, but now it's actually on film. So now these brothers and now they're afraid. So if you weren't a strong brother before, you're going to try to hide yourself into being a strong brother now and ride on the coattails of the Black Lives Movement or all these other movements just to say like, okay, I don't want to be harmed, so I'm just going to jump on the side. And I see that now, and that's why they've really taken away the strength of what these movements actually can become. Do you believe this is very beneficial, or what do you think could come out of some of these movements, Carl?
Well, the movements themselves serve a purpose in terms of bringing light to something that has been hidden. You know, America still wants to present itself as being this beacon of democracy, freedom, and fairness to the world. So what these protests have done is sort of expose the fraud that America truly has been and always, you know, has been for centuries at a time in regards to its treatment of black people. Myself, I'm not necessarily a follower of a lot of the movements because a lot of the movements are funded by the same power structure that's perpetuating the violence against our community. So it's sort of like, you know, what the Rothschild family once did with their banking system, where they fund both sides of a war, and whoever wins, they still stand the benefit. So I'm not necessarily a follower of a lot of these movements. But at the same time, I recognize the benefit to the community that they serve in order of putting a spotlight onto the criminal actions of this police state that we live in called America. In regards to where we can start moving forward is we need to have more prudent plans put in place. We can't just become a part of an anarchist sort of responsive anarchist team where we're responding to everything, and then our only concern is to cause disruption or to try to change the vision or the viewpoint of black people in the eyes of the white community. That's not going to work. They have generations of pure hatred. If you can't see in the media now, not just the media, but in social media, about how large groups of white people who have normally been able to hide their identity behind, say, a group called the Ku Klux Klan, a group called the Skinheads, or the group called the Aryan Nation. Now you're seeing that it's regular people that's showing up. You know, people who you would see who you might go into a bank and there might be the bank teller, or the person when you show up and cite a traffic ticket, this might be the judge. You know, this and it's already shown through the FBI's. The FBI released a report recently showing that the local police units all over the country have been infiltrated by white extremist groups. So, you know, when we say race soldiers, we're really talking about the race soldiers of these extremist groups that preach nothing but hate and have a history of killing black people. Now, I want to go back a little bit to what I said earlier about it not just being the so-called Klansmen who's the white supremacist now. You know, if you think about what you spoke on when you talked about the lynching of Emmett Till, and when you talk about the history of lynching in this country, you'll find that there were advertisements in newspapers, and I'm talking about just 100 years ago, advertisement in newspapers. There were big rallies and big town picnics where they picked, you know, our ancestors to hang, and they broadcast it, and it was a big function. It was like a town carnival put together. And you'll find that less than 10% of the people in that town were actually card-carrying members of these racial extremist groups, these white racial extremist hate groups. But 95% of the town showed up for the picnic, showed up for the lynching. So what does that tell you? That tells you that even though people claim not to be associated with this particular mentality, that the majority of these white communities that were all around the country were in league with the white extremists when it came to killing our ancestors, men, women, and children. Pregnant women, they would slice their stomach open and stomp on the unborn fetus. You know, so this is the mentality that we're dealing with, and this mindset has been passed down through generation. Now, it used to be a covert situation, but with the rise of Barack Obama being the first identified black president, and the new rise of Donald Trump as being sort of like this mouthpiece for the so-called unspoken or unheard or whatever you want to call it, the poor white class, you're seeing now that there's more overt racism in our time than any time in the history of this country.
Exactly. I think, but my mindset about it truly, Carl, is that it's on the same basis as if you had a hose and it just, you stepping on the hose and the water needs to seep through. I think the racism was always there, but it was just suppressed so much that now it's able to explode. When now we like, oh, we got that fucking nigga in the White House. Are you kidding me? Now, oh, they taking my job. Oh, now my home is being taken. Oh, now we're going through 2008, the crisis. Oh, now this is happening and that happened. So it's just a collective of this animosity that was there, but suppressed in some ways due to the other people being in charge of just seeing a white man in the house. Just gave you the mindset like, okay, even though I'm going through struggle, George Bush is there. Even though I'm going through struggle, Bill Clinton's there. But now that I'm going struggle, I got to see that nigga on the screen. That upsets me. And that makes me frustrated. And he's the cause of it. And they're the cause of it. So it's like, to hell with them. And now we have a person that's going to get up there and play the minstrel show. That's all the brother is doing. And I'm not even going to say brother. That's all that man is doing. Is just getting up there with a minstrel show to get these people to just go on with this rhetoric. Because he really does not want to be president. We know the game. We know the situation. It's just one group. It's not two sides. We're not fools about it. But that's what us as a people need to come and understand. If we're going to do this, black people, we have to stick together. But go ahead, Carl. I'm sorry.
No, you brought up a good point. And in fact, you know, I want to make 2 points off of that, off of what you said. The first point is what you described in President Obama, you know, sort of being the one to come up and pretty much drench the fires that we have in terms of dealing with, you know, the racial injustice that black people are dealing with. You know, he pretty much douses those fires. And he is the macroculture, I would say, through the microculture of which is of the microcosm of what you see taking place in communities all around the country, when you have black police chiefs, black prosecutors, and black defense attorneys, or black litigators and whatnot, black mayors. They're normally the ones that have to step up to the microphone and step up to the podium to defend police brutality. And they consistently have done it. Only with the exception of the mayor, of the governor of Minnesota, has any of the black representatives actually spoken out against the heinous crimes and police terrorism that's taking place. I mean, we even see what happened in Baltimore, where Marion Mosby pretty much went 0 for 6 in convicting anybody for the death of Freddie Gray. So that point brings us to another aspect that I really think is important that we as black people need to be prepared for, and that is, as a working class, as a dependent class to the structure of America, black people have become obsolete because we're no longer the number one labor class in this country. That's the Latino immigrants that are coming in. The Mexican immigrants and Central American immigrants that are coming into this country have replaced blacks as a labor class. So what you see now is the disregard for blacks increasing as the time has moved forward, because we are no longer a protected class in this country. And as a protected class, you know, because our labor was needed, there was a certain level of protection you would have from the dominant society. But because we are no longer that, And because of how all of these international borders are starting to disappear with all of these treaties that are taking place, black people in America, and not just in America, but throughout the world, but mostly here in America, you're seeing that black people are now being placed in a very dangerous position of being expendable. And as black people, we need to recognize that we live in a system of white supremacy that does not need us. So for those blacks who continuously try to find and seek aid in reform of a system that has shown you now that it doesn't need you, that it can disregard you, and not only can it disregard you, it can systematically eliminate you, which is what we're seeing taking place in cities like Philadelphia, all over the Eastern Seaboard, and Flint, Michigan, with them poisoning the water and things of that nature, with lead poisoning and fluoride and all these other things that they're doing. They are pretty much placing us in a position where they can not just genocide us, not just perform acts of genocide, but actually perform acts of ethnic cleansing, where they're pretty much just removing our phenotype from the face of the earth. And it's not the first time that, you know, Europeans have thought like this. You look at King Leopold and what they did in, you know, the Congo, where they eliminated over 15 million Africans, and some say the number is as high as 50 million Africans over the brother trade. Or when you look to what happened to our ancestors in Tasmania, we no longer have ancestors from Tasmania. They've all been killed. You know, they've been exterminated. So we don't have, we have to pay attention to the fact that this particular killer is the king of propaganda, for one, the king of lying, telling lies, and necessarily they consistently place us in a position of looking like criminals, but they in fact are the real crooks in the world, and they're the real violent nature, the real violent tendency. So they have the violent nature and tendency to destroy a whole race of people and then rewrite the history books.
Exactly.
I mean, how many Native Americans, real Native Americans, do we even see here in America?
None.
You know, we have the $5 Indians, but the Native Americans themselves, you know, very, you know, far in between, and they're wiping them off as we speak.
Exactly, and you're right, Carl. That's why I said I'm just going to jump over what you said at the end, brother, because that's the basis of it. It's like if I'm able to win, I'm going to tell my story. So he is going to tell his story. Definition, history. That's telling my side. So if I'm able to be victorious, you will get my side of what I believe is correct. The difficulty is that we're still here. So they're not able to just take over our narrative and just go so far with it. But the problem is a lot of us are still asleep to it because we want to be comfortable. The problem is like we just don't want to feel pain. We don't want to feel strife. So if we see the movie of slavery, or we see a black person in pain, or we see in this and that, or struggle, we turn the channel, or we turn the cheek, or we look another way. That's the problem. We don't tell the Jewish people to turn off the television when it's the Holocaust film going on with Anne Frank or things of that nature. You don't tell the Japanese to turn off the screen when you see Hiroshima going on and things of that nature. That's my difficulty, is that when it's us, it's always seen as though the narrative is shut up, get over it, put your bootstraps on, get an education, and go do something with your life. But my difficulty is, why are you not saying it to them? Why is it that we're the only ones? You know why? Because we have no backing. We have nothing backing us. We're falling, and we're just free falling, brother. Do you believe we will ever have some kind of backing, Carl?
I absolutely do. And I think we'll be able to see it in our lifetimes. And this is, once again, you know, why I am doing the Independence Day Project, is because once we start to have that vision of black independence, once we start to see what black empowerment looks like now, and then the projection of what it'll look like, and we no longer have the chains attached to us that, you know, in the red tape of white supremacy stopping us from progressing, once we remove that mental block of dependency on them, because they have played a game of psychological warfare on our community, which has really led a lot of people to become stagnant in terms of looking for freedom. Once we remove that, cover that veil, And once we show people that they don't have to be afraid to seek black independence, that we don't have to get caught up in terms like pro-black is anti-American, or the black power struggle is equivalent to the white power struggle, when we know the black power struggle is all about love and the white power struggle is about hatred. Where we can start speaking freely and showing people that we can start speaking freely and then start building, because we have to start building. We have to start working with the brothers and sisters who are ready and start building. When we build it, they will come. They will come. So I'm very confident in the fact that we're going to actually have, we're going to see a semblance of black independence in our lifetime, and we will be able to lay the stones, to lay the pillars, and the foundation for our children, so that they themselves can take this fight further and continue onward toward the state of being a free and independent black community. And once you start doing that, you'll start to see brothers and sisters working on codes and having a code of standards and a code of conduct. Once you start seeing us working on code with the code of standards and the code of conduct, then I truly believe the walls of white supremacy will start to crumble, because the sky will start to fall, and we'll start to see the defeat of white supremacy. We have to remember, white supremacy in itself is partially powered by our, enabling of what we allow them to do. So if we consistently, if you start to see us moving away from their institutions, and you start to see us changing our minds from being focused on rugged individuals to community empowerment, and when you start to see us educating our children early on, and then you start to see that the children educated in our systems are also going to be employed in our community because we're going to have the institutions with us. When you start to see all those things, then essentially put, we're not going to have to worry about going to the voting booth. We're not going to have to worry about them seeing them on any level. They're going to start coming to us, and they're going to start to, we're going to have our ambassadors, our legal leads, our lawyers, and representatives for our community, be the standing guard. But they're going to have to start coming to us, because we're going to be so united that we're going to start creating our own economic blocks. Once we create the culture, the economic block follows, then the political system, then the educational system, all these things come together. Once we start dealing with the fact that we have a vision, and we can create that vision, a shared vision of black independence, brothers, you will see it in this lifetime.
Thank you so much, Carl. And that's basically that's the definition of what we need. And I hope I am able to see it, but if not, I hope my children are able to see it. Basically, in conclusion, brother, is there anything else you would like to plug, anything you would like to say? Please, the floor is yours, Carl.
Well, currently, right now, beloved, like I said, I'm still working on the Independence Day Project. And if anybody's interested in supporting the Independence Day Project, they can go to my website, What About Us. That's WAU, whataboutus.com. So WAU, and then whataboutus.com, and they can, subscribe to be a donor. They can also, we have T-shirts available for the Independence Day Project. We have more things coming up. I'm also involved with an organization called PAX, and you can go through PAX and see some of the work that we're trying to do within the community. And the website for PAX is PACCSINC.org. That's PAXinc.org. And you can go through and check us out and see some of the work we're doing. I'm on the board of directors for that organization, and we're trying to do some things. We're trying to do the things that the NAACP never did in terms of representing our community. So people can reach out and help us there. And check us out. I'm also on, I have an appearance every month on a radio show here in Philadelphia called The New World View. That's on 900 AM WRD.com. And, just check us out and see some of the work we're doing down here in Philly. If anybody's available in Philadelphia, on the Philadelphia area, August 20th, we're going to have a conscious cookout located in the North Philadelphia Peace Park. So just check out my page, Professor Carl Tone Jones on Facebook, and you'll be able to get all the information for all the things that we're speaking on today. And let's just keep it pushing. You know, I really believe that once we get this project up and running, that people are going to see, because this is going to be something that's going to be produced on the big screen, and you're going to see a groundswell of people coming forth and with ideas about what Black independence looks like. So we'll start to change the idea from being married to the struggle to starting to be married to the solutions.
Thank you, Carl. And just in closing, just like the brother Tupac said, I might not change the world, but I might have the brain cells to put inside of you to make you believe that you can change the world. So this conversation in itself is something that we can take on and build for the family. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show, Carl.
Ashe King, peace and blessings to the family. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, brother. You have a good night.
Peace and blessings.